Minecraft Farm is the equivalent of worse than Auschwitz. So I was reading how to be a better YouTuber and they said that I needed to start the video by grabbing the viewer's attention. So I hope that absurd statement grabbed yours. But that statement is not entirely absurd. There's some truth to it. It's just hear me out. Just so you and me don't lose our minds, let's skip the 4-hour YouTuber essay introduction on what Minecraft is because you probably already know. But if you click in this video, you probably don't know how many crimes did you commit while making Minecraft and your farms and other stuff. Yeah, debated nigga, we are also including normal crimes and not just war crimes. Before you get to the point, here's some ground rules. By playthrough, I mean what the average Minecraft player does. Grab ores, build farms, build stuff, etc. And by crime, I mean what the United States considers a crime. I arbitrarily picked the USA for the reason because fuck it. I assume most of you are United States, and also because I don't know about the quirks of other countries. Example, if I picked a country like Brazil, that would mean the human cloning will get you a maximum penalty of 5 years, and technically piracy will be legal. So I don't know how normal other countries' legal systems are. I will also not be including player-on-player crime or stuff that will happen in the multiplayer server because, well, players can get incredibly creative when it comes to inventing new ways to torment, abuse, and torture each other.
For the first time ever in 2B2T history, slave labor.
And lastly, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just compiling the piece of information I found on the internet and turned it into a script, so don't take anything I say as legal advice, or advice in general. With all that in mind, let's get straight to it. You start every good Minecraft sword by breaking up 3 and oh shit, I think you broke a law. I'm not sure. Not even 1 minute into our thought of experimenting, we reached a roadblock, and a complicated question. You see, laws on doing things like cutting out trees can be extremely convoluted, but generally speaking, it depends on who owns the land the tree is in, that is. And that raises the question, who owns the land we are in? Who owns a Minecraft world? For the sake of simplicity and for the sake of the video, we assume that every piece of land on the whole world is considered national land. And if anyone complains, we slaughter every single one and then work history books on okay, so basically you either need a permit if it's federal land, and if it's your land, private land that is, then it's okay unless the tree is like really big. As for getting permits, well, we can't contact government entities inside Minecraft, so, and assuming the Minecraft player is a normal person who does normal things, he probably didn't go out of his way to get a permit, and that's a crime. Next thing will be mining. Technically speaking, mining is legal according to the General Mining Act of 1872. If we claim the ore we found, we can get a permit and mine it legally. That is probably a major simplification, but I'm a gamer, not a lawyer. But honestly, the main problem isn't in the mining part, so just the digging part, because usually Minecraft players, you dig a very big hole and that will require permits, but also because Minecraft players usually don't signal like very big hole or something like that, it could be considered reckless endangerment. Think about it. There is some stupid piece of shit fell into the hole and died. For that, I'm gonna consider it both digging the hole and the mining as a crime. Hunting without a permit, crime. Depending on the way you do it, better you could even be an RS. Yeah, I'm seeing you player who kills chickens with a flint and steel to get the food cooked. But if we're being real here, beating a cow with a stone axe and over is not what I would consider ethical hunting. Because yes, disregarding animal welfare in hunting is also a crime. So I'm gonna add another crime to the list. How about you building a house on land you technically don't own? Crime. I'm not even gonna get into the complicated stuff like building codes, regulations, etc. But yeah, it's bad. And there is also stealing, from villagers mostly. Since villagers were updated, the rate of theft and slavery skyrocketed for some reason. You see, I started this playthrough normally, but one could also start a run by getting to the closest villager, making a villager farm, stealing shit, and getting in-game gear in like 20 in-game days. So yeah, you could start a world like that if you're the YouTuber, tryhard, or deep shit, but nothing impedes you from doing the three of those things at once. Okay, well now we can go to the juicy stuff. Crimes related to villagers. You see, villagers are a special mob in this game because they are clearly people, and by them being people, there are also tons of crimes you can do to them. Some without even noticing. Is living in someone's house without a permission is trespassing. Stealing food, and of course, slavery. You see, people joke about the Geneva Convention a lot, but it is actually pretty hard to do a war crime. Especially if you're not a war. See, I actually read the Geneva Convention. It had a lot of sections about the treatment of prisoners in war and stuff, but like, since we are not at war with the villagers, technically they are prisoners of war. But for the sake of the funny, let's assume they are. What crimes can we commit to them? Okay, biological experiments are an obvious one. Turning them into zombies and then turning them back is like pretty bad. And there is sexual coercion, which is a crime no matter the context. Yeah, but like forcing a villagers to breed in a villager farm is a crime so absurd it is not technically listed in the fucking Geneva Convention. It's like the Geneva Convention doesn't not mention it directly, but there's stuff like Article 27 of the first Geneva Convention saying, women shall be specially protected against any attack on their honor, especially against rape, enforced prostitution, or any form of indecent assault. But it does not include sexual coercion with the purpose of breeding. There's also the fact that villagers technically are women because all Minecraft mobs are like a gender or something like that. Ignoring that, we can consider it a crime against humanity. The Home Statute of International Crime Court mentions something about the unlawful confinement of women firstly made pregnant, but that's within the context of trying to affect a ethnical group. But honestly, I'm just gonna wing it and consider this whole mess a war crime because, whatever. But yes, Minecraft players invented a new war crime. That's impressive. Okay, how about slavery? Cop farms and trading houses are clearly slavery. Well, no, technically speaking. The Third Geneva Convention, Section 3, Article 49, says, the detaining power may utilize the labor of the prisoners of war who are physically fit, taking into account their rank, age, sex, and physical aptitude, with a view particularly to maintaining their in good state physically and mentally. Okay, if you're not treating them humanly, you could, well, just do it. There's a but, a big but. Not this but. Article 51 says it needs to be a suitable working condition. 52 says it cannot be a dangerous job, and we technically break 53. The duration of the daily labor of the prisoners of war, including times of journey and to and fro, shall not be excessive. Since we keep villagers working all day, stuck there 24/7, we technically break those two articles. That's assuming they're prisoners of war. Which for the funnier, let's assume they aren't. Slavery. They don't get paid, working hard conditions, can escape, and was this crime. Who never killed a villager with like a bucket of lava because they had the wrong traits, you know. There's a subtle one, market manipulation. You can like do the whole thing with the heroes of the village effect. You either attract a hit on purpose or build a machine that creates rates that leads to then believing you are a hero, but you know yourself you aren't. That's kind of fucked up because technically speaking, you are the literal, like the closest thing to the Antichrist there is. Like you're pretending to be a hero and you're actually really fucking evil. But religions aside, unless you're a bit sociopathic, most people don't torment villagers on purpose. So while the amount of crimes you can commit to villagers is big, it's not as big as I would imagine. Alright, let's give ourselves a break from this overworld mess and we need to get to the nether, get some juicy netherite. But first off, we need the portal. Well, opening a portal to hell isn't a crime, technically speaking, but it could be considered a public nuisance because, well, it's a little bit scary and it's fucking loud. It's whatever, that's basically the lore of Brazilian Joke Trilogy, opening a portal to hell in the favela, trying to revive Michai and they did close it. Anyways, what hell, there's some interesting implications. I'm gonna talk about the complicated topic of are beginnings people later, but let's assume they are, and that they own the nether. That's their land. What type of crime is exploring the resources and looting their bastions? Well, assuming you are at war with the piglins, it's not a crime, since there's no civilian piglins. Other than maybe children, but we will ignore that. But even if Wikipedia tried to impede us, looting is good and you should keep doing it. As for mining itself, it's whatever. The most crime thing we can do is improvise homemade explosives to mine. I do not know if a bed is considered explosive just because it explodes in the nether, but I'm not gonna do this fucking semantic exercise. But TNT definitely is. Although or owner, the explosive will with the highest quality materials to call it improvising offense to my Minecraft. Still, crime. I don't think there's actually that many crimes one can do in hell, but I think there's a question that is like more ethical than illegal, I guess. Is invading a nation a legitimate way of gaining resources on land? If you say no, then most countries in the world are like evil empires based on exploitation of natives. But if you say yes, you are. Okay, I'm gonna go off script a little bit. I wrote the script on the before Trump did the fucking thing to Venezuela, but I guess he answered it for me. I was gonna say that like Russia is bad for invading Ukraine to gain land and stuff like that, but like holy shit, he fucking just hit it. That's scary. Because Venezuela is like next to Brazil. Okay, whatever. Tangent over. But anyways, one can be eccentric and say we cannot undo the past, but try to impede the same mistakes from happening in the future. That's fucking ironic. Okay, this video is getting too deep and too dark. Here's a gaming clip to lighten the mood. Já tira o pino?
Não tira o pino antes não. Só botar nela, é isso.
Eu tirei o pino já, cara. Alright, back on track. With our netherite, the thing we need to upgrade that I forgot the name of, what else could we need? We need to go to the end, sure, we would also need things like a mob farm. And why do it be poetic to end the video by killing the underground in most Minecraft worlds killing him? Oh no, here. Killing her is just another step before building something like a XP farmer in the end, or like getting a lighter. So we commit like a wildlife crime and murder an animal with explosives. So that's non-ethical hunting, and there's actually the extinction of an endangered species. So you know, there's only one endangered dog and you fucking killed her. Editing Nero here again for the fucking motorcycle. You notice how I used some YouTubers footage to illustrate the dragon thing? Well, I was gonna to record it myself, but it didn't go. I don't know how to do it in the. I'll just show you what happened. Okay, so after that we raid the fucking sugar thing, get our lighter, make an XP farm, and we need to talk about mob farms. Okay, it's time to explain why you are here for. Why is a Minecraft mob farm equivalent, if not worse, than Auschwitz? And this starts with a very simple question. Are Minecraft mobs sentient? Or better yet, are they sapient? Yes, nigga, this is actually a video about the philosophy of mind, neuroscience, and cognitive science. Yeah, alright. So firstly, let's define sentience and sapience. Generally, sentience is about being able to feel things. A chair is not sentient, but a dog is. Now, sapience, on the other hand, is a little bit more complex, because it deals with complex thought, abstract thinking about the past and the future, self-awareness, etc. And before anyone comes and comments something, I'm talking about sapiens in the context of humans, because they're like levels of sapiens, like a whole fucking debate related to like the rights of animals, stuff like that. But generally speaking, you need it to be sapient in the context of humans, so you can be considered a person. And if you can define it as a person, then we have ethical considerations to make, and legal ones too. Like, think about it, a chicken farm is just a chicken farm, but if instead of chickens we had humans, then we got a concentration camp. Like, this is ironic, but in the case of chickens specifically, they literally are killed in gas chambers. I cannot make this shit up even if I wanted to, but hence why this question is so important. Sentience can be generally observed as a creature reacts to things like pain and other emotions. And I have been curious why animals and people are not equals in the eyes of the law, but generally speaking, it's because animals do not follow the social contract. You see, why there's like videos about like animals who are sad when the owners are gone or something like that. A fucking dog cannot reason why murder is bad. It cannot follow the law because you do not understand the abstract concept of law. You cannot follow the social contract. There's an implicit contract we follow. They're good, don't murder, don't rob. And because the animal cannot do such a thing, you cannot be given the same rights as a human. Like, for the fucking legal system would collapse if a fucking horse got sued because the horse does not know what a lawyer is, so he cannot ask for one. And we cannot just give the rights either, because if the animal does not follow the sexual contract and the humans do, it will be like unfair. So we need the creature to be sapient so it can be considered a person and have the same rights as a person. I could get very deep and ask if mobs are not truly intelligent and herd is just an imitation of intelligence. Within the meta context of the game, mobs are exactly that. They are pieces of code who imitate intelligence. So, for the sake of this fucking video, we assume that every piece of intelligent behavior is evidence and can be taken at face value. And yes, my voice is getting tired of speaking so fucking much. So this will be from like a tier list, and I'll be real, it's probably not accurate, probably. I didn't give it too much thought into it, but it's good enough. Okay, so let's think about like animals. Like dogs have probably some more sapience than a fish. And a dolphin is known for being intelligent, but animals aren't the important part. It's the mobs. Let's start with the skeleton. When it pertains to mobs showing signs of intelligence, the skeleton is a strong contender. He shows several signs of intelligence, being able to use the bow, which takes some skill, and he's intelligent enough to maintain distance when attacking. He will also seek shelter when in the fire, and he will also pick up armor and weapons. But he is not smart enough to consider enchantments, may I add. Although one could argue that being able to use tools and have a sense of self-preservation is not enough to show sapience, apes can use tools, but the thing is, bows take a level of proficiency no ape could ever have. They might be able to throw objects, but bows take a lot of dexterity, and you need to be very close to human, which skeletons are. Okay, let's think about what they are seeing here. The fucking skeleton who is walking. A skeleton is just a human body without flesh. I know you to keep that in mind because right now I'm gonna talk about the zombie. The zombie is basically human, but just undead. Their flesh rotting, their minds probably rotting too. It's far better for us a human. I won't even consider intelligence within this matter because the infection that zombies have is probably the reason why they are mentally deteriorated and also the reason why they attacked us, at least I assume. The only thing different between us and the zombies is their mental state and their physical state. And because of that I will argue that zombies are human. The reason is because if you re-argue that zombies are not human because of their condition, and because their condition makes them like mentally deteriorated and physically disabled, we also be like arguing that people who are mentally impaired in real life are like not human, which is rough. It's like There's also the fact that zombie villagers they literally can be cured back into their human state, meaning there's humanity there. So you argue that zombies have sapience, it's just kind of there because of their state. That goes back to skeletons and the reason why I made that tangent. Because I realized that biology of the mobs is also important when it pertains to discussing the sapiens. So let's think about what a skeleton is. He does not have a brain, he does not have muscles, so the fact that he fucking is walking out there is a fucking miracle, let alone usable. And we can interpret this in two ways. Either skeletons are puppets or sort of like an automaton controlled by some reflex or like a higher being, or whatever magic there is the source of their sapience. Whatever gets them moving creates consciousness, and they are able to think because of it. So they're equally as sapient as us, but just with a magical source instead of like a brain. And because I said it would take any signs of intelligence at face value, I'm gonna say that these skeletons are highly sapient. Okay, let's start speeding things up because this video is too long. Creepers are probably the only ones I can assume are not very sapient due to having no signs of intelligence. They are not close to humans, and their only behavior is like to hunt towards it and like destroy itself, which would go against like sense of self-preservation or whatever. They run away from cats too, but like both running towards humans and running away from cats can be done through like instincts, like scent or something like that. And canonically speaking, the anatomy of creepers shows that their brains are quite small, so I really doubt they are sapiens. On a fucking side note, I was reading some posts about the creeper, and this fucking Reddit explained it. Due to the creeper shot being triggered by the vagus nerve, that would mean we could technically trigger it by proxy by stimulating the rectum. That means that, canonically speaking, the creeper explodes when he's fucked in the ass. Thanks, Cats41. Spiders only attack at night, and I have no idea what that is. And they're the insects too, and I doubt that because they're like got bigger, they became sapient. Slimes are just globs. Honestly, I think the only remaining mob that I say this like sapient is the Enderman. Simply because of the fact that they use language. You see, in Minecraft, if you are reversing the sounds of Enderman with some software, you see they're like saying stuff in English. It's just their voice is reversed. That is definitely a strong sign, I say. You could argue that they could be like parrots and stuff, but with their usage of blocks, their need to not be looked at, etc., I would say they have at least a chance of being sapient. And there's witches too, which are basically villagers, so I'm not gonna even like argue that. And pillagers is true, I forgot to add that to the script. Okay, so why did I analyze all of that? Because if a Minecraft mob farm it's killing a lot of people, it's basically genocide. As opposed to what players do when killing mobs in what we consider in self-defense, a mob farm essentially just kills the fucking mobs over and over and over and over. It's a target killing. The Convention of Prevention and Punishment of Crimes of Genocide by the United Nations defines genocide as acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethical, racial or religious group. We could consider the mobs are a group, and they being killed over and over is genocide. So that's a war crime. But that is the if not worse part. If not worse. And I'll explain what I argue. It's worse than Auschwitz, because at least Hitler kept them dead. Like, this fucking ungodly creature we call a mob farm gives birth to them again and again and again, turning the whole existence into a hopeless moment of desperation before falling to their deaths or burning in the fucking campfire. Tens of hundreds of thousands of souls being damned to be sacrificed over and over again. More blood for the gods of blood are once again. You pick their heart and flesh and their eyes and you wouldn't even use. You pick their bones to feed machines and build houses in a castle out of the fucking carcasses. String used to build armor or part imitation of creativity. Gunpowder used to feed your greed and want to need for destruction once more. And when you finish manipulating the villagers with your hate farms only to exploit their gratitude by selling working flesh, you yourself and users, I want you to look at everything you built, at the reflection of everything you created, and answer to me, are you truly the hero of the village? Okay, that might be over the top. I cannot realistically judge anyone since mobs are just bits and bytes. Within the context of that word, it might be scary, but it's only if you assume the word is real. And it isn't. I could now talk about like other crimes what the players could commit if he wanted to, like went out of his way to commit, but making a tangent about that sister rape with a machine or something like that seems pointless right now. But what I can say and conclude is that there's an interesting realization about the nature of video games we can observe here. Is this a reflection of the immorality and inherent criminality of the Minecraft player, or is it just a reflection of like the lack of freedom, moral and legal restrictions create? Like, is this why Minecraft is so popular? Because unlike our society, it's inherently free. Free to be or to not to be, to create, to destroy, to live or to kill, such a thing, And if such a game becomes a safe space, like a piece of heaven, or something so desired and ideal, it becomes the most popular game ever made, what does this say about our world? And if you look at the current picture, or better yet, Grand Theft Auto 5, the second most sold game, you notice it's likewise about being free to do whatever you want, immoral, illegal, or not. But with the darker implications Minecraft usually tries to hide with its silly looking mobs and grasslands exposed, out there, on your face. And I don't know what the implications of that are. If such a thing is like a release file, a displacement, like a safer substitute, or something that is entirely accord with morality, since we know there's no consequences, because it's a virtual world. What I do know is that I'm a hungry, tired and fucking I'm sick of this script. Oh, fuck it, you get the point. I need to take a break, because if you learn something with this video, is that if you dig too deep, someone will probably find us for it. Okay, so I think I figured it out. So there's this idea, right, that things will get better, right? Basically hope. You know, it's a pretty broad thing to say, like, oh, things will get better. I mean, I understand that intuitively, but I need dates, hours if possible. You know, I need something more specific. But that's not. I compensate, right? I remember this random thing, like, no, Natsuki from Doki Doki Literature Club, she compensates. She has a very harsh life, but she makes up for it with, like, behaviors and stuff. That's what I do, right? That's not the point. That's not the point. What I figure is, it's always one battle after another, you know. Like, and I I realize, like, every single day, like, battle after battle, it's pretty close to hell, right? And it's very close. Sometimes I wish someone would just put me out of my misery or something. But I don't truly want that, do I? There's something inside of me that wants to keep fighting. I don't. If I'm being honest, I kind of hate it. Like, it's just rational. It's constant. And it will never let it go. Like, it doesn't care about meaning. It doesn't care about pain. It doesn't care about war. It just keeps going. You know, many people struggle to find a reason to keep fighting, but it's the opposite for me. I feel like I can't stop, and that's gonna maybe kill me. You know, like, destroy me. Whatever.